Alright guys, so let's start our spaceflying demo. I'll just go ahead and start the timer. I won't jump into runs immediately, but I'll start off with some explanations. Alright, here we go. Right, so the best place to start talking about spaceflying is Big Blue Ordeal, which is probably one of the first levels where people discover spaceflying shortcuts, but it's also one of the easiest levels to try, so if you want to get into spaceflying, then you probably want to start with Ordeal. So we'll see why. Oh, what's this? Alright, where's my cursor? Here it is. Okay, so this is a map of the beginning of Ordeal. Let me just get over there. Just load up my spaceflying machine. So to spacefly you need a machine which is really light and is able to turn really sharp. So the best machine happens to be like this one, which has this speedy dragon body, and you need to put it at max XL for best results. That makes you turn a lot sharper. And you can spacefly simply by strafing back and forth. So when we refer to spaceflying, it just means like you can fly indefinitely, just like maintain your height indefinitely, even gain height, and you have quite a bit of mobility in the air. Alright, so before we get ahead of ourselves, let's explain what checkpoints are. Alright, so this map here, I've labeled the checkpoints at the start of the level. If you're wondering, like, you might have heard like some GX people talk about like this shortcut works because you didn't skip this checkpoint, which is at this, like for example in Mute City serial gaps, they might talk about like you can't skip this one checkpoint, which is at the left side after the jump plates. So you might wonder, like, just how many checkpoints there are in a level. And in Big Blue Ordeal's case, there are actually 477 checkpoints. And it turns out the issue isn't like skipping one checkpoint, it's skipping too many at a time. So we'll go over all that a bit later, but let's just look at this map first. So we have checkpoint 0, which is always at the start line, and we have checkpoint 1. This is actually a little bit weird, but like often when there's a gap in the track, it's kind of like it's kind of like when you're here, you're considered between checkpoint 0 and 1. When you're here, you're considered between 1 and 2. Here you're kind of in limbo, but it's not really important here. And then so basically when you go through these two 90-degree turns here, let's just do that. So right now I'm between 1 and 2. So when I cross about this line, I'm past checkpoint 2. So hopefully you're following along here. And here I'm crossing 3. Probably when I'm past that corner, I'm probably past checkpoint 4. And then when I'm between these two right angle turns, I'm past checkpoint 6. So So let's see this Spaceflying route. Alright, so the idea here is you get over to this, around here where you're past checkpoint 6, right? And you can either pass or not pass checkpoint 7 or the others, it doesn't really matter, because when you go back left, then the game puts you back between 6 and 7. But the key here is that when you're approaching the finish line again, the game still thinks you're between checkpoint 6 and 7, because see how these checkpoint lines, they're actually like checkpoint walls, I guess, but since the track is flat, you can think of them as lines. The game still thinks you're between 6 and 7 here, whereas, you know, when you were here at the start of the path, you were between 0 and 1. So the game is basically a little bit confused about where you are right now. The game thinks you're lined up with this part of the track when you're way over here. So you might see where this is going now. When you cross behind the finish line here, the game still thinks you're between 6 and 7, so it doesn't decrease your lap. And then you get over here, you finally get behind checkpoint 6, and the game says, oh, you're also behind 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, so let's put you at the very end of the lap. So that's why you can do this. So the only requirement is that first of all you avoid that kill plane at the left. That's nothing to do with checkpoints, it's just the game, if you're there, then the game just kills you, so don't do that. You just need to cross that checkpoint 2 line pretty much. Checkpoint 6 is easy to cross, and then you're here. Right now the game still thinks I'm on lap 1, even though I'm at the end of the lap, so I got boost power. Right, and oh yeah, I actually have these labels, just shows you a little bit better what's going on. So when I label this as 1, that means I'm between 1 and 2. When I label this as 6, that means you're between 6 and 7. That's, you know, just a little bit shorthand. And so yeah, the key is this part where you're behind the finish line and the game still thinks you're at checkpoint 6. So that's the key. So let's see. So this path here. So what I'm illustrating here is that you don't need to cross these first few checkpoints in order. You can forever, I will put up pictures of these routes at some point, but for now I haven't uploaded them yet. I did put audio ones on Twitter, that's it. But yeah, they're coming. Let's see. So here you see this path here. It actually processed the 6th line first, although the game doesn't care about that yet. It's only when you're past checkpoint 2 and the game checks if you're also past 3, and in this case, yes. Are you past 4? Yes. Are you past 5? Yes. And you're also past 6 at this point, so the game puts you at 6 here. Now you can't skip too many at a time. We'll see that later, but in this case it's not a big deal. So this kind of route works out perfectly fine still. I can go way over to the side and I think it'll still work. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So let's see a few routes that don't work. So here I'm going to show that you really need to pass that checkpoint 2. So you should have a decent idea where that is. So as I might have illustrated, already. Checkpoint 2 is basically like, it's about lined up here. So you want to make sure you cross it, otherwise when you're like over here, the game still thinks you're, you know, at checkpoint 1, checkpoint 0, and you know that's something the game can easily detect. Oh, you're at the beginning of the lap now. When you cross behind, you must be, you know, going behind one lap. Let's see. So here's another route that doesn't work. So this time it does the first part right, but before going behind the finish line, this route accidentally goes behind checkpoint 6. So what does it do here? When it goes behind checkpoint 6, the game is like, you're also behind 2 through 5, and also behind 1. So we're gonna put you at 0. And so the same thing, the game can easily detect that you're going behind the lap marker. So yeah, that was pretty blatant. It's like, you don't even need to be right above the track necessarily, but if you get like very close to the track here, you might mess up the strat. So be careful not to do that. And also, when you cross the finish line forwards again, you want to make sure you are behind checkpoint 6 at that point. Otherwise, as you can see, like when you cross the finish line forwards, the game doesn't think to, you know, advance your lap because you're still in front of checkpoint 6. And it's only when you cross this line that the game updates. So you want to make sure to cross behind the finish line, then cross behind checkpoint 6, which means, you know, getting close enough to the track again, and then finish the lap. So that's ordeal pretty much. Let's see if I can get under 20 seconds on this. No guarantees. Well, alright. Alright. Versus results. So generally this seems to happen when you get under 20 seconds, which I guess the game never expects you to do, but it's still kind of weird that this happens. So yeah, that's ordeal. We're about 13 minutes. I guess that's about where I thought I'd be at this point. So that's cool. Alright. So long pipe is, the map looks a little bit different, but it's a pretty similar principle here. Alright, so once again, that checkpoint 0 is at the finish line. Let's see. Alright, so the idea here is to pretty much follow the track until you're at the first turn. And then what happens here, once you're past checkpoints 3 through 5, you can go backwards, stay behind, stay in front of checkpoint 5, like between 5 and 6. and only when you're behind the finish line do you cross 5 again. So it's quite similar to Ordeal, it's just that you don't have a 90-degree turn, you have 45, but that's totally fine. You just have to go out farther to the side. You have to kind of deal with funky gravity here. It might be kind of hard to tell like how far out you are. I use this ship as a guide. Is that gonna mess things up? If you brush the track at a certain point, then you might mess up your checkpoint. I don't think that's been a problem before here though. Alright. And taking like quite a conservative path here. You can definitely cut it closer. Let's try and do that. Alright. And yeah, if you see the map here again, when you finish a lap, you don't actually need to be like aligned with the track or anything. You just need to make sure you're behind checkpoint 5 again, and then you just you know, cross that line parallel to the finish line. And especially for the final lap, you want to do that for optimization. Alright, so what have we got here? Lightning half pipe. Alright, again, this is quite similar actually. It's even the same kind of 45-degree turn there. But this one is a bit... The interesting thing about this one is the very poor visibility when you're flying. So basically, so whenever you're not going forwards, but you're going like sideways or backwards, the game gives you these 3 yellow arrows. Actually, it's not dependent on the direction you're going, but it's like if you're... When you're flying, it seems like whenever you're far away from the checkpoint you're supposed to be at, then these yellow arrows appear. And then basically you can actually use these as a guide as to what direction you're going when you're flying. Let's see that. Alright, so you can see, we can't, I mean, as you can not see, we can't see anything, but those arrows kind of give you a guide on where you're going. So again, pipe gravity is a little bit strange. Oh, cut it close there. I hope that's far out enough. Cool, alright. So you just need to make your best judgment on how far out you've flown. Hopefully you've you know, gone out far enough to stay in front of checkpoint 5 here. Alright, let's see what's next. Okay, so we've seen a few examples where we use the first turn. So here's an example where we use the last turn. So this is a little bit more complicated, but it's basically using the same principle, which is getting the checkpoint stuck somewhere other than the finish line, and then crossing the finish line. And so actually here it'd be useful to say, like, when you cross the finish line and the checkpoint is stuck somewhere else, the game seems to want to like update your lap count to the place where you last landed. So basically you want to make sure you're on lap 1 before you get off the track. So let's see what this path is doing here. So basically you take flight and you go behind the start line. So at this point the game should actually detect that you're on like lap 0, not lap 1, but this is fine. So basically you follow the track so that the game can update the checkpoints until around here, like checkpoint 81 or lower or something like that, and then the checkpoint should get stuck nicely so that when you turn around you go here, the checkpoint is still stuck like around here, or maybe it's like here, but in any case the checkpoint's not on this side of the map. So that's what you want to do. And then you cross the finish line forwards, and what it does here, it updates your checkpoint status to the lap where you last landed, which should be lap 1. So you're now on lap 1. And when you go behind the finish line again, the game is like, oh, you last landed on lap 1, so I don't need to decrease this. So you're still on lap 1 here. And that's at least as far as I can tell, this is how it works. And so basically what you're doing here, you're getting your checkpoint, going back to where you stuck the checkpoint, and you're getting it unstuck so you can finish the lap. Because if you went straight from here to the finish, you would explode upon landing, because the game is like, oh, the checkpoint's way over here, you're here, and so you skipped way too many. You can't do that, so you gotta grab your checkpoint back from here. Actually, let's see a way later to avoid making the game explode you in that case, but that's quite advanced, so I'll show that. Actually, I'll show a video at the end because it's so precise. Alright, now the other issue with this track is just leaving the track in the first place. Hopefully I can do that before too long. Alright, there we go. Okay, so we're going back to the last turn. Just let the checkpoint sit here. Now, you can use the 3 yellow arrows to tell that you have successfully stuck the checkpoint there. So that's quite useful. Alright. And since the checkpoint's following you nicely, you can just cross the finish line in the air in this case. The next case, we'll see that you might actually want to land before crossing the line, but here it's fine to do that. Alright, let me show an example of not quite getting a checkpoint stuck there. Wait, I think I succeeded. Oops. Here, let me get it back here. Alright, let's say that you are trying to, like... Wait. Oh, hang on. Okay, well there's an example of the game exploding you because you skipped too much. Alright. Okay, yeah, so see how the 3 yellow arrows, they're not pointing back there, they're pointing like more like where I am, or you know, forwards along the track here. So in this state the checkpoint skip is not going to work, so you gotta make sure it sticks to that side of the track, and then you do the rest of the strat. Okay, things like on lap 1 now instead of lap 0, and we get the checkpoint back. Wait. The track is hollow, I'm not sure that's a problem. Huh. That was interesting, actually. Maybe I... Maybe the checkpoint got stuck somewhere else. I think about here should be good. Oh yeah, that should be a good one. Okay, so yeah, that's Mobius ring. Alright, outer space. So this one, again, it's using the last turn of the track. So what we do here, the reason I draw this path like this is just because you need to go this way to actually leave the track. I don't always take that into account when drawing these paths, but I did here. And so what you do, you follow the track basically until you get around here, like past, you know, about 201. And then you make sure that you stay behind all these lines, like whichever one is like, you know, outermost here, you don't want to cross it. Otherwise the game will basically figure out where you actually are. So you want to stay like behind the lines here. And it's only until you get, you know, you get close to the finish line that you start to approach the finish line again. At this point, when you've crossed the finish line forwards, the game thinks you're on lap 1. And when you cross it backwards, your lap doesn't decrease. So now what you want to do here at the end actually, it might be a little hard to see, but I put a black X here, indicating that you need to actually land before finishing. And the reason for that, so in most cases it seems like when you are this far out, like at the very last checkpoint, compared to like 201 or wherever you made the checkpoint stuck, that's like skipping too many checkpoints for the game to like figure it out automatically. So actually what you want to do is land so that the game resets your checkpoint back to where you are here. And the key is that you haven't skipped so many checkpoints that the game explodes you. So you're at a happy medium here, kinda. Alright. Leaving a track is actually a little tricky, but you get used to it. So now we stay far away. So let me just show that you really would need to land. So basically, I'm pretty sure there I crossed it forwards and backwards and then forwards. Yeah, but it didn't count until I actually landed there. Yeah, so this, as far as the tracks where you use the last turn, outer space is one of the easier ones, I would say. Like leaving the track can be a little bit tricky, but the checkpoint stuff isn't all that strict. The other thing you want to watch out for, I think if you go too far north on this map, then you hit a kill point. So don't go too far north. Other than that, you should be fine. Alright, so we got cylinder knot here. Okay, so this map, like made the coordinates different. So the it's kind of hard to see when the lines are just going through the numbers, but this is 0, so this is where the finish line is. It's kind of like you know, the finish line is pointing like into the image here. So it's like the path first goes backwards, and then what it does is, while also going like up. This direction is up and down. Oops, sorry. I should be dragging this a bit. Wait. Alright, there we go. Alright, yeah, so this is the whole map. It's kind of wide, so it's kind of hard to fit here, but yeah, so this is the start line. So you go backwards, and you want to stay high enough so that the cylinder's gravity doesn't mess you up. And so let me see if I can like just kind of drag this around. I think that'll work. Okay. So what I'm illustrating with this track is that the checkpoint lines, sometimes you do have to consider that they're 3D, that they're not just lines, that they're actually like walls that you pass. And in this case, two very important ones are 179 and 178 here. So those are basically you can only pass through them going up or down. Kind of hard to describe like directions, but I hope you get what I mean there. So you want to go, definitely you want to go high enough to go above 179. And you want to go past, you want to go behind 183 here. So that's definitely key. And the 3 yellow arrows, again, will help you out. Those yellow arrows. So it's like, you'll see those 3 yellow arrows until you get behind 183. And then they disappear. So you know you've gone far enough to that point. And then what you do is turn around. And then while you're above this line, you want to cross the finish line forwards. Once you drop below this line, your checkpoint like can snap back to the finish line. So you want to make sure you cross the finish line forwards first. And actually at this point, I don't think it matters whether you're above or below the line when you go behind here. That's due to like you being on the border of how many checkpoints you've crossed at the same time, for the game to like allow you to snap back to where you actually are. A bit complicated, but basically you want to definitely cross the finish line forwards when you're above this line, and then you drop below the line to finish the lap. Alright, so I hope I remember how to leave the track. Okay. You want to get a lot of height here, so that you don't get messed up too badly by this thing. And you go about here. No more yellow arrows, so we're good. Don't go too high here, but stay high enough. And you cross forward, backward, and finish. Alright. So instead of completing all 3 laps, let me show you what happens when you go. Oh, hello. Alright. I think I went too far right there. and then I got caught into that cylinder's gravity. So that's another thing that can happen. I think I was... oh jeez. That's what I meant about, like, I hope I can leave the track properly. Oh jeez, alright, too far right again. That didn't really like mess up where the game thought I was in terms of checkpoints, but which cylinder's gravity you stick to I think is also determined by just what you're closest to. I'm not 100% sure on that, but here's another application of it. I'm gonna go really high and to the right. Alright. I guess the game thought I was here. Yeah, not really sure how that works, but it's something to watch out for. Yep, alright. Okay, so slimline slits, that's where we're at, right. Okay, so what happens here? So now, you see that this path is pretty uncomplicated actually. All you have to do is leave the track. You're like past the finish line here, and then you go just out wide and you're behind the finish line. And that pretty much does the trick. Now I think all you have to do really is just go far out enough. I'm pretty sure that's all you have to do in this case. What follows this track, after this track I'm gonna show you a couple of examples where you actually need to be at a very specific sweet spot. But in this case I think you just need to go out wide enough so that you're behind 352 before you're behind 0. And then, okay, so what this does, the game actually acknowledges you're between 1 and 0 here, but when you cross here, the game figures you're behind, you just crossed behind 0 and you were also behind 352, and for some reason this is enough for the game to just not decrease a lap. Like, it just seems like in this case it's because you're crossing behind 2 at a time when you're going behind the finish line. I'm not 100% sure the logic it would use there though. So hopefully I can leave the track, alright. So here I'm gonna actually like follow the track so that I don't get a checkpoint stuck somewhere. That's important. Again, visibility is questionable here, so you want to go quite wide, far out to the side for this. I was hoping to like bounce out of the track so I could start the next lap right away, but I'm not very good at that. Let's see if I can do it this time. No? Alright. But yeah, that's the strat. Okay. Here's one of those levels where I'm calling it basically a strat where you have to thread the needle. These are not my favorite kinds of levels, but there are a few of them as it turns out, so yeah, okay. So here, you just stay in front of the finish line, and then you you cross behind it at a very specific range here, and the game doesn't decrease the lap in that case. So let's have a close up of this. So the reason I put so many lines here is that I wanted to confirm for myself basically that hang on. So basically, if you were going like past this huge mess of where all these checkpoint lines merge, if you were like to the right of this part and you crossed the line backwards, then you would be behind a ton of checkpoints at a time, and there's no way the game would, you know, allow the checkpoint to snap back to you know, from 0 to 30 from the end or something like that. The game just doesn't allow the checkpoint to snap back that far. So if you cut a path like here, like as these two failure markers show, then what happens, like the game just kind of puts you in limbo, where you're kind of like, you're behind this line, but the game doesn't know where to put you next. But in the meantime, the game has actually decreased a lap, so you're screwed at this point. So what you want to do actually is, it seems what you want to do is cross behind this line and just like one or two of these checkpoint lines on the same frame. So it's like this dot shows one frame, this shows the next frame. This shows one frame, this shows the next frame. Alright, but what I'm not entirely sure about is that this example here doesn't quite go behind the next marker on this same frame, but this one still succeeded, so I'm not quite sure what's up with that. Regardless, it does seem like only a very narrow range works there. So it's basically the main thing so far in this stress that I've looked into that I can't explain fully, but yeah. So this might take a few tries. Oh, it didn't. Alright. So I'm using a guide on the ground textures. Like basically, I'm trying to loop around the third sand hill, which is past the finish line. And if that sounds ridiculous, it kind of is. Because I also have to be like a particular height for that guide to work reliably. And I'm pretty shocked it happened twice in a row. Alright. Okay, so one interesting thing about this kind of strategy, one fortunate thing, is that you can keep trying to thread the needle properly. If you fail, you just try again. Just go straight back and try again. Like, you don't need to set anything up. And then you just cross the line forwards to see if you made it or not. Yeah, so when you play these levels, you hope you can find that needle to thread in a decent amount of time. That's basically what it boils down to. So let me show another example, because why not? I might go a little over time, but I only have a couple more tracks to show. You know, you probably have the idea here, so that's fine. I don't really like Firefield anyway. Undulation. It's pretty much the same deal, except it's actually even more mysterious to me because this line is horizontal and the last line is also completely horizontal. There's no way that you can cross both of these on the same frame. Instead, it might actually be related to these first few checkpoints. which the first few checkpoints are like here. Here's the success failure lines. I don't know what this success is doing here either. So yeah, to be honest, I can't quite explain fire field undulation adequately at this point anyway. But in practice, what you do is similar to surface slide. When you're going behind the line, you have to dread a very specific spot. So let's look at lateral shift instead. I'm gonna show two strats here. The one is very similar to Mobius ring, which is use the last turn to get the checkpoint stuck, and then you cross the finish line forwards and then backwards so that you're now on lap 1, and then you retrieve where you stuck the checkpoint and then just finish the lap. So let's just show that off real quick. If I don't do that. Alright. So we just follow the track. Stick the checkpoint here. Cross the finish line forwards and backwards. And then get our checkpoint back. Oh hey, I did that thing. Alright. Let me pause and explain the next strat. Okay, so this strat here, what you do is you get behind the finish line, and then so this is another way to get the checkpoint stuck somewhere else basically. This X shows roughly where you want to brush the side of the track, and that sticks the checkpoint to that point where you brushed, but you do not want to actually land there. Otherwise the game the game will know that your last landing point was at lap 0 at this point, or the previous lap. So don't actually land there, just like brush there so that you update the checkpoint, but the game doesn't recognize that you've the game still thinks that your last landing spot was here, basically. And then with that checkpoint set, you just follow the track and finish the lap as before. So that this technique of like brushing the track at a certain spot is used in a couple of places. Yeah, it can be easier said than done though. I don't think I quite brushed it yet. Oh, I landed. Alright. Yeah, that's not gonna work. So when you've successfully brushed the track, the checkpoint should, the 3 yellow arrows should point the other way, like that. Alright, and don't forget to cross the finish line, forward, backward. So again, those 3 yellow arrows really help you tell what's going on here. Alright, so let's just explain one last one. And I suppose I might as well play a track as well, but there's no way I'm gonna get this, trust me. Alright, so here's a path that doesn't work in Twist Road. You might say, like, okay, there's a turn at the start. Let's try getting the checkpoint stuck here and then go behind the finish line. The problem is, the first turn already has 24 checkpoints. So by that point, the game is like, no, you can't snap the checkpoint back that many. The limit's gonna be like 6 or something, not 24, so it's not even close. So you can't steal that. When you're here, the game still thinks you're at, you know, 23, 24, and so when you cross this line, nothing special is gonna happen. And if you try and land here, you explode. If you land here, you don't explode, but the game figures that you're at the beginning of the lap. You're not gonna pull anything fancy there. But if you land exactly on the line while going backwards, then what the game does, it kind of like, it doesn't decrease your lap at all. When you're like, the approach basically is like this, and then you land here, and then basically if you went any further you would explode, and if you didn't go far enough, then you would just be on the same lap. So let me just show you a feeble attempt at that. I'm gonna get the checkpoint stuck on the second turn, basically, and then I'm gonna go here to try and line it up. Alright, that thing gets in the way a lot. Might as well try one more time before I show you like Richard Taro's video. I'll stay low. Okay, that fell way short, but hopefully you kind of see what I'm trying to do. Like when you land, you want to be like, you know, right about here. And then you'll like go back here and you might smack into a wall or something, but when you cross the finish line, you should be on the next lap. So I hope this is adequate. Alright, I think that's just enough view. Too lazy to get the window properly here. Oh yeah, he takes a much more direct path, but yeah, that's basically what you do. You land right on the finish line while going backwards, and it just works out. The game gets confused because it's trying to, like, I guess it's trying to update two things at once: your landing spot and your checkpoint, something like that, and your the lap of your last landing spot in your checkpoint. It just gets one thing updated before the other when it really shouldn't, something like that. Yeah, alright, so that's Spaceflying pretty much. And as I said earlier, I'm gonna get these route maps released at some point, including covering more courses hopefully. So yeah, hope that was informative. Alright, let me try and get the next run set up now.